This talk was given by Roshi Rafe Martin, guiding teacher of the Endless Path Zendo, a lay Buddhist community in Rochester, New York. Join our practice, in person or online, at endlesspathzendo.org.
So today is Saturday, May 30th, 2026, and we'll continue reading from Zen Life of Bodhisattvas, a book of mine from 2 years ago. And we're up to chapter 4, Manjusri Fails. A woman comes out of meditation. So case 42 of the Gateless Barrier features Manjusri and takes a seemingly odd turn. In it, the great and powerful Bodhisattva of Wisdom, in a classic Wizard of Oz scenario, ignore that man behind the curtain, stands exposed as neither wise nor powerful. The koan, which opens in a realm of myth, returns us to our ordinary world, but now a world transformed. Here's the case, sometimes also called Manjusri and the Young Woman in Samadhi. So, once Manjusri went to a place where many Buddhas had assembled with the world-honored one. When he arrived, all the Buddhas had returned to their original dwelling place. Only a young woman remained seated in Samadhi near the Buddha's seat. Manjusri addressed the Buddha and asked, "How can the young woman get near the Buddha's seat when I cannot?" The Buddha replied to Manjusri, "Awaken this young woman from her samadhi and ask her yourself." Manjusri walked around the young woman 3 times, snapped his fingers once, took her to the Brahma heaven and exerted all his supernatural power, but he could not bring her out. The world-honored one said, "Even 100,000 Manjusris cannot awaken her. Down below, past 1,200 million lands, as innumerable as the sands of the Ganges, lives the Bodhisattva of Delusive Wisdom in the early stages of practice. He will be able to bring her out of her samadhi." Instantly, the Bodhisattva of Delusive Wisdom emerged from the earth and made bows before the world-honored one, who gave his imperial order. Delusive Wisdom stepped before the young woman, snapped his fingers once, and at this, she came out of her samadhi. Women's commentary. The comedy Old Shakya puts on the stage here is a great hodgepodge. Just tell me now. Manjusri is the teacher of the 7 Buddhas. Why couldn't he get the young woman out of her samadhi when the Bodhisattva of Delusive Wisdom, a beginner, could? If you can firmly grasp this point, then for you, this busy life of ignorance and discrimination will be the life of the Dragon Samadhi. Woman's verse. One can awaken her, the other cannot. Both of them are free. A God mask, a devil mask. The failure is wonderful indeed. The failure is wonderful indeed. Note, the name Bodhisattva of Delusive Wisdom is Aiken Roshi's translation. Other versions in English name him Momyo, but Aiken Roshi has really sharpened the case for us with this translation, which is accurate. What is the gathering about of all these Buddhas? Most likely they've come from across the universe to brainstorm their essential task, how to liberate suffering beings. So they've come to talk shop. It's a workshop for Buddhas. This story of their meeting and of Manjusri's late arrival appears in a sutra called The Collected Essentials of All Buddhas, in which the Buddha gathering is revealed to have taken place in a distant galaxy named the Buddha land of Tenno Tathagata. Here, that vast cosmic event simply forms the backdrop to the koan proper. Sutras say that our universe is filled with innumerable worlds and Buddhas, and that incomprehensible periods of time have already passed between the arising of Buddha after Buddha right here on earth, where Zen tradition honors 7 such fully awakened beings, Shakyamuni Buddha simply being the latest and most recent. Of course, in pre-scientific ages, it's so interesting that that view has held up as in fact, it's been confirmed and deepened by modern scientific understanding. There are indeed innumerable worlds which Buddhism is held to from the very beginning of Buddhist tradition. Science now says, as our astrophysicist Adam Frank can confirm for us all, that almost every star has planets. So there are billions of stars in a galaxy and billions of galaxies, which means there are trillions and zillions and gazillions of planets. This was all part of Buddhist tradition, and vast, incomparable periods of time. We know this is true just on Earth. 4 billion years is the age of our planet. Incomprehensible events have occurred in the depths of time, with lava flows and oceans covering land masses and everything changing constantly. So Buddhist tradition certainly gets good grades for an understanding of the universe that we are certainly at this point upholding with greater detail, but certainly the main points are all confirmed. Interesting. The koan makes use of the larger epic story of this gathering in order to challenge us to actually awaken ourselves and realize Manjusri's intimately non-dual selfless wisdom, and through the intricacies of the koan come to understand the fundamental nature of our own lives and daily reality. That's always the point. I think that's the thing that makes Buddhist tradition, especially Zen tradition, so significant. It always comes down to our own mind, our own lives, our own daily realities. We don't get lost in the cosmic view, but the cosmic view is expressed in the simplest, most ordinary things. The great Zhao Chu, I always remember being really moved by his statement. He said, making water, even something as simple as this, I must do for myself. Even something simple as breathing, I must do for myself. Even something as simple as awakening, I must do for myself. The cosmic view is always folded into the intimate, the ordinary, the daily. Though it's a play, as Wu Men, compiler of the Gateless Barrier, takes pains to point out, it's not the kind of performance we can enjoy from our seats. Its truth won't open to us passively. We can't applaud at the end and leave the theater. Instead, we must get up onto the stage and join in the drama. The koan is as participatory as the living theater of the 60s. No observers, participants all. Life itself is performative, after all. Life is a performance. It's an action. It's a participation. And what a show it is. The curtain rises as Manjusri is admitted to the gathering, only to discover that all the Buddhas have returned to their original dwelling place. Why? Where is that place? A perhaps interesting side note to this dramatic opening, Master Woman here and indeed throughout his Gateless barrier reminds me of Bob Dylan for, and this is a quote from The Guardian on Bob Dylan at 80, which was 5 years ago, we're celebrating an artist who can transform his personal experience into something mythic and then back again into something that is personally meaningful to his listener. This double operation is at the heart of his genius. The connection may not be far-fetched. Perhaps it is one that Dylan himself recognizes. On Dylan's last album, Rough and Rowdy Ways, lines like, I like a shooting star, and I like a shooting star, and climbed a mountain of swords on bare feet, sound suspiciously like lines lifted directly from the Gateless barrier. Specifically, Wu Men's commentary to Case 8, Xishung's Carts, which goes, if you realize this directly, your I is like a shooting star, and your activity like a flash of lightning. And his verse to Case 17, the national teacher calls 3 times, which concludes, if you want to support the gate and sustain the house, you must climb a mountain of swords with bare feet. Dylan uses both of these lines in his most recent album, which was maybe 5 years ago or so. So, has Dylan been dipping into the Wumen Quan? Was Wu Men the Dylan of his time and Dylan the Wu Men of ours? Maybe, but it's a great line to take to heart. If you want to support the gate and sustain the house, you must climb a mountain of swords with bare feet. It's not so easy. Things could be painful along the way to really face ourselves, to really get it. It'd be like climbing a mountain of swords in bare feet. That's intimate, but intimacy can also bring up all the things we've been trying to avoid or evade our whole life. We may want to stick into more comfortable territories, but if you really want to uphold the gate in the house of Zen, then you'll have to climb a mountain of swords. You'll have to face it all. You'll have to face it all. This, I think, is true of any true spiritual tradition. If it's not just going to be floaty along, you're going to have to dig in. So in any case, to go on, Manjusri goes to a gathering of many Buddhas only to find they've all returned to their original place. Aiken Roshi, in his commentary on the case, in his book, Gateless Barrier, says that if you can get the why and wherefore of this, the rest of the case will be in the bag for you. In short, he's telling us that the mythic will have become intimate. Except not all the Buddhas are gone. Shakyamuni Buddha remains, and oddly, seated close to him, is a young woman deep in samadhi, out beyond her ordinary daily consciousness and seemingly rather stuck there. Why can a young woman sit near the Buddha when Manjusri, the Buddha's own teacher, can't get close? Shouldn't the Bodhisattva of perfect wisdom be closer to the Buddha than anyone? Yet here he is, distant, while a young woman, a beginner no less, sits close to him. This part of the case, to be honest, draws on a dark aspect of both Asian history and the world's. Classical Asian Buddhism, essentially monastic in its form, paid little attention to women's abilities and achievements. Though wise women appear in sutras and koans, rarely do we meet them as Dharma ancestors, that is, as fully acknowledged enlightened teachers. Fortunately, this is changing. Contemporary research is reclaiming both the realized ordained and lay women and lay men, too, who were always there in the tradition. In our lineage, ancestral line, Dainin Roshi, I think very wisely, included both women, lay and ordained, and laymen who were never acknowledged in the tradition, but they are in our ancestral line. And this is, I think, both realistic and honest and also encouraging. In any case, they were hidden in the shadows of monastic patriarchy. That's where lay women, ordained women, and laymen were hidden in the shadows of a monastic structure, a patriarchal monastic structure. So a misogynist history lies behind this koan point. It's not simply that an ordinary person is near the Buddha while a great bodhisattva isn't. It's that a young woman is there and doing rather well too, her very youth emphasizing her unworthiness. In ancient China, the elderly received deep respect, not so much the young. And as a woman, she carries as well the stains of menstruation, pregnancy, and projected male desire, all of which would have made this case something of a mind bender for its original audiences. What? A young woman is close to the Buddha? Impossible! This is disturbingly similar to the hook in the classic koan of Zhao Chu's dog, the first koan in Gateless Barrier. Asked by a monk if even something as lowly as a dog has Buddha nature, Master Zhao Chu answered Mu, a response that has benefited countless Zen practitioners for the last 1,000 years. Our koan of Manjusri and the young woman ask, can even someone as lowly as a young woman have spiritual potential? However, this is used by Wu men in the koan not to uphold misogyny, but to empower the drama. Think of an actor screaming their lines rather than saying them. It's done for emphasis. Wu Men, compiler of the Gateless Barrier, used what his culture offered to dramatize, emphasize, underline the point. He might also have something up his sleeve. In both the Lotus Sutra and the Vimalakirti Sutra, a Naga princess in the former and a youthful goddess in the latter put monks and arhats alike to shame with their wisdom. Perhaps Wu Men is giving a nod to a deeper truth, that practice, realization, is open to all. Wisdom is accessible to everyone. If so, bravo, Wu Men. Now, about the young woman's condition. The word samadhi is from the Sanskrit root samadha, meaning to collect or bring together, and is typically translated as concentration or unification of mind. In short, it's a condition of the mind absorbed in its own presence, in silent, one-pointed, attentionless attention, a selfless but not necessarily awakened condition. It can be pleasurable, even blissful. However, if we become attached to this condition as more real than our ordinary experience, we can create yet another obstacle. Daily life haunted by memories of something more special can now seem not good enough, which might be okay as motivation to mature further, knowing deeper living is possible. But if we cling to blissful states and our memories of them, we can get rather stuck. Some people experiencing a degree of peace through breath practice, for example, can hesitate to take on the challenge of koan practice, fearing it will threaten their happy enough condition. If our aspiration is awakening, then faith is important. Faith in what? Faith in our own nature and in our potential to wake to it. Roshi Kapleau used to say that Zen requires only one fundamental article of faith. Faith that the Buddha was neither a fool nor a liar when upon his great enlightenment, to his own astonishment, he exclaimed, "Wonder of wonders! All beings are Buddha, fully endowed with wisdom and virtue. Only their self-centered thinking prevents them from realizing it." At some point, such faith leads us to think if the Buddha wasn't a fool or a liar, then what did he mean? All beings must also mean me. But how can I be a Buddha? Filled as I am with confusion, anxiety, anger, jealousy, pettiness. And if we're all Buddhas, why all this suffering? Why all this injustice and hatred? And what's going on? I mean, what's at the root? Probing into such questions is the path of practice realization, which might begin years before we ever choose to cross our legs or enter a zendo. Faith and doubt, which does not mean simple skepticism, are not really so different. Doubt, really probing doubt, really questioning about things, is faith in action. Faith is the foundation of doubt. The doubt that Zen speaks of means openness, wonder, a creative willingness to look directly, not simply accept pre-packaged answers. It frees us to deeply ask, why is the world so filled with injustice and difficulty? Who am I? Why was I born? Why am I here? Why must I die? Where are we going? It's a way of removing blinders and reclaiming our innate freedom. While calm and steadiness are deeply valuable, they are not in themselves insight, which is the point of the koan, of every koan, really. They're not just pointers toward further practice or subtle concepts that we can carry around. They are each one doorways of realization. Right now. Why can't the most deeply insightful Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva of wisdom himself, get close to the Buddha while someone new who's not even considered to have much potential, someone rather stuck too in an early phase of practice, sits close by him? The koan's initial challenge was, where did the Buddhas go and why? The second challenge in this koan is, why can't Manjusri get close to the Buddha while a young woman can? It seems rather ridiculous. And it really bugs Manjusri. So he asks, what's going on? The Buddha answers, awaken her and find out yourself. So Manjusri snaps his fingers beside her ear, circumambulates around her, even takes her up to the highest Brahma heavens, where the heavenly splendors might bring her around, or the terror of peering down from such lofty heights might shock her out of her stuckness. Nothing works. Manjusri, the great Bodhisattva, teacher of the past 7 Buddhas, fails. Why? This question, too, demands personal clarification. Not only can't Manjusri, the wisest of all the great Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, get close to the Buddha, but he also can't bring this young woman, a beginner, out of her limited samadhi. What gives? What is the function of wisdom? What is Manjusri's purpose? Why can't he enter the assembly of Buddhas? Why have all the Buddhas returned to their original place? What is their original place? Why can't Manjusri get close to the Buddha while a young woman can? And why can't he bring her out of her limited samadhi? And of all this, wasn't enough. There remains a final humiliating twist. After Manjusri Fails, a beginner bodhisattva, who we're told resides countless worlds, perhaps entire world systems or galaxies away, immediately appears and without hesitation, easily awakens the young woman. Just like that. She emerges from her samadhi. And that concludes the case. Wu Min himself, compiler of the Gateless Barrier, calls this a mishmash, a hodgepodge, and yet the play's the thing. Here again is Wu Min's commentary on it. The comedy Old Shakya puts on the stage here is a great hodgepodge. Just tell me now. Manjusri is the teacher of the 7 Buddhas. Why couldn't he get the young woman out of her samadhi? When the Bodhisattva of Delusive Wisdom, a beginner, could. If you can firmly grasp this point, then for you, this busy life of ignorance and discrimination will be the life of the Dragon Samadhi. The Dragon Samadhi is a samadhi that's so ordinary, so natural. It swallows everything, consumes everything. Nothing is outside it. It's a complete samadhi of ordinary mind. It's not even a samadhi one can take hold of. It's the samadhi of form is emptiness, emptiness form. Just as things are right now, this busy life of ignorance and discrimination will be the Dragon Samadhi. Why does he call it a comedy? What's the essence of the hodgepodge? The payoff is that if you get clear on this, Wu Min says that for you, this ordinary life with its absurdities, challenges, and injustices, its joys, sorrows, ups and downs, will be the Dragon Samadhi. That is, you won't simply gain a condition of calm, peace, or bliss, or realize some momentary experience of oneness. Instead, this very life, just as it is, will be transformed into liberation, realization, enlightenment. Like some great dragon, your insight will swallow the universe in a single gulp. Hold on. Wait. Not so fast. Our ordinary life, with its problems, messes, misunderstandings, disappointments, difficulties, will be enlightenment. Our time-factored limited life, with all its failed relationships, missed opportunities, anxieties, terrible injustices, its anger, sorrows, and fleeting joys, will be the great liberation? Really? Wu Min doesn't simply say to have faith in this. He's saying that it's simply so. The carrot is that the Dragon Samadhi sounds like what we're looking for. The stick is that we might make an effort and fail. Kapla Roshi used to offer these encouraging words. If you don't let the Dharma down, the Dharma will never let you down. If you make the effort, something will come of it, even if you don't recognize what it is. If you keep making the effort, something will happen, even though you can't predict when or where or what it is. If you don't let the Dharma down, if you keep working at it to the very best of your ability, the Dharma will never let you down. Roshi Kapleau had absolute faith in that. Absolute faith in that. And in more ordinary terms, nothing done sincerely, is something else he used to say, is ever a wasted effort. even if we make mistakes, if we've come upon them sincerely, trying to do our best, and it turns out to have been, oh, that was a mistake, it's still not wasted. It's a step on the path that we had to take. In short, virtue is its own reward. And virtue needn't mean goodness. The virtue of iron is strength. The virtue of ice is cold. Practice is its own reward, whether we deem it a success or not. There is virtue in making a sincere, wholehearted effort. The virtue is that we are the effort. We're not outside it anymore. Woman's verse, one can awaken her, the other cannot. Both of them are free, a God mask, a devil mask. The failure is wonderful indeed. One can, one can't. Isn't that unfair? Shakespeare was an immediate success, but Melville never received a single positive review on his masterwork, Moby Dick. Picasso never failed to receive worshipful accolades, yet Van Gogh never sold a painting, and William Blake died in glorious poverty. One can awaken her, the other cannot. Can't is interesting, can is interesting too. Astoundingly, woman asserts that both are free. How is Manjusri free? And how is the Bodhisattva of Delusive Wisdom also free? How is Einstein free? And how is Walt Disney free? And what about us? How are we free? Dragon Samadhi or no? How are we free? Put on a God mask and people bow down in awe. Wear a devil mask and everyone runs off in terror. How often in the course of a single day might we put on one mask and take off another? Can failure be wonderful indeed? We dread failure, don't we? I mean, we just dread failure. We want A's, not F's. In the movie The Right Stuff, when Alan Shepard, the first astronaut into space, is sealed into his tiny capsule, perched at the top of a lethally explodable rocket, there at the knife edge of life and death, he utters one heartfelt prayer. His prayer is, "O Lord, don't let me fuck up." He's not asking to survive. He's not asking to triumph. He's asking not to fail. Is Manjusri's failure wonderful indeed or sour grapes? Is the koan saying that in the long run, painful experiences are for the best? If so, isn't that a dodge? And oh well, good enough. Wouldn't that be to mistake a bell for a pot, as Wu Men says in another context? Then again, a snake's inability, its failure to be able to gallop, makes it a marvelous snake, not a failed horse. What if having no leg to stand on is our strength? To know such wonderful failure, we ourselves must awaken to Manjusri's nothing at all, the vast wisdom of just this, in which there is no me, no you, no self, no other. The total failure of all our egotistic stratagems, of all our old ploys and plots, is called enlightenment. It's not the ego's greatest triumph, it's the ego's greatest failure. Yet we also live within the wisdom of Momyo, the still wet behind the ears Bodhisattva of Delusive Wisdom. Snapping his fingers, Momyo instantly awakens the young woman. Just like that. Quantum entanglement, says that a single molecule or atom far off on the other side of the universe will rotate in unison with its twin on this side, no matter the incalculable difference between, or distances rather, between. The Bodhisattva of Delusive Wisdom and the young woman are an entangled pair. He snaps his fingers and she comes out of her meditation. They get each other, speak the same language. Why? How? And why is the great Bodhisattva of Wisdom out in the cold? In an old Irish tale, the great warrior, poet, shaman, and king Fionn, sometimes it's written F-I-O-N-N, if you know Irish mythology, Fionn, challenges his men with the question, what's the most beautiful music in the world? And they each offer good answers, such as the call of a lark, the laughter of a child, the sigh of a woman, the baying of the hounds, the ringing of a sword against shield in battle. Fionn rejects them all. Finally, when his men press him, he says that the most beautiful music in the world is... Can you guess? The most beautiful music in the world is the music of what happens, which turns the tale into an Irish koan. And it's a tough one, too. So many awful, incomprehensible things happen. How can this be? How can this be the most beautiful music? Going deeper, quantum mechanics tends to agree with Fionn. The microsecond by microsecond unfolding of ordinary daily reality, the music of what happens, is the result of the failure of all other options. Lines of quantum possibility extending microsecond by microsecond in all directions collapse into the single line we rather naively and perhaps recklessly call reality. This very reality is the failure of all other options. The red of the rose, the taste of the tea, the stars at night, good morning to your friend, the smile of a child. This too is the failure, is wonderful indeed. All other possible lines of existence are no-shows, they're failures. So, the caw of the crow, the pink of blossoms, the taste of tea, the failure is certainly wonderful indeed. But again, what about the tragic, painful, and terrible things that happen? Are they too wonderful? Here's where it gets tricky. To fall into a concept about it, to generalize, simply won't hold up. Job's lament was only fully answered by directly hearing the voice out of the whirlwind. The consolation of any philosophy, any concept, deconstructs in the end. What is this failure that is wonderful indeed? To know it. There's only one way, really, to know it, which is to fail ourselves so completely that it becomes clear. How to do that, that's the trick. How to really do that. Each breath, each koan, is an opportunity to disappear into this moment of practice. Give it all up. It's not hard to fall into thinking of Zen practice realization in terms of winning and losing, attaining and failing. When we're passed on a koan, we could think, whoa, great! When stuck on a koan or wrung out of the Doksan room, we can feel like failures. Is any of it relevant? Is enlightenment our greatest success or greatest failure? Bob Dylan says there's no success like failure, and failure is no success at all. That's from Love Minus Zero, No Limit. Roshi Kapleau used to ask at workshops, if you have an alcohol problem, who might help you more, a therapist or a reformed alcoholic? Then he would answer saying, both. They both could help, each in their own way. Contemporary Zen teachers looking at this koan of Manjusri, Momyo, and the young woman say, think of flying a modern jet plane. 100,000 Manjushris probably couldn't start and fly it. But an ordinary jet pilot can do it easily. 100,000 Manjushris couldn't do it. But an ordinary jet pilot can do it easily. Manjusri, the great wisdom bodhisattva, and Momyo, the bodhisattva of delusive wisdom, like the delusive wisdom bodhisattva and the young woman, also form a pair. Manjusri can't do anything without Momyo. Momyo has no essential wisdom without Manjusri. What is the difference between their two kinds of wisdom? And as a final challenge to our hodgepodge of a comedy, whose wisdom is the greater, Manjusri's or Momyo's? What do you say? Though this may be off topic, here's a story. Back in the 60s, Dane and Henry Roshi had an old VW bus. One night, as he was driving along a lonely rural road, the bus broke down. Cursing and grumbling, he started walking toward the lights of a farmhouse, twinkling a mile or so ahead. As he walked along the empty road, the odors of trees and plants, a field and forest came to him on soft night breezes. The Milky Way rippled and shone overhead. It became one of the most beautiful walks and memorable nights of his life. Wonderful, wonderful failure, indeed. Turning again to Bob Dylan, the erstwhile failed Iron Country Minnesotan, formerly known as Robert Zimmerman, right now, I can't read so good. Don't send me no more letters, no. Not unless you mail them from Desolation Row. Indeed, indeed. We'll stop here and recite our great vows for all.